In the year 1889, on the windswept plains of the Dakota Territory, Eleanor Quinn was 28 years old and stood with nothing but a threadbare coat, a single carpet bag, and $8 folded inside a handkerchief. The settlement of Railway Bend had allowed her to stay only because no one else wanted the abandoned railroad car that sat rusting at the edge of town. After her parents died and left her with debts she could not pay, the town council decided the old car was worthless and let her buy it for almost nothing. A few men laughed when she stepped forward with her money and said a woman alone had bought herself nothing but a pile of rotting wood and iron. Yet as she climbed through the broken door into the dark, dust-filled car, she felt something waiting beneath the floorboards. Something long sealed away that would not only change her own days, but would reach back into the heart of Railway Bend and give the settlement back what it had nearly forgotten it. Once possessed, settle in and let us tell you the story of Eleanor Quinn. If this story finds you standing at the edge of something others have already walked away from, we would be grateful if you shared your thoughts in the comments below. Eleanor had grown up learning that strength was measured by what one gave when others had nothing. After her parents were taken by fever, she tried to hold to that belief, taking in sewing and helping families who had lost men to the railroad work. The town had grown around the rail line, but many small claims had been quietly taken when the company moved the tracks. Eleanor had watched her own family's land shrink year by year. When the debts finally forced her out of her cabin, the council gave her permission to buy the old railroad car because no one else would touch it. On the morning she paid her $8, the men at the station shook their heads and said she had bought herself trouble. The abandoned car sat half buried in weeds, its red paint faded and its roof sagging under years of snow. She spent 3 days clearing broken glass and sweeping the floor. On the fourth morning, while prying up a loose plank near the back wall, she noticed the floor gave slightly under her weight. She knelt and lifted the board. Beneath it was a narrow cavity holding a small iron safe, rusted shut but still intact. She carried it to the front of the car and worked at the lock with steady hands until it opened. Inside lay a leather ledger, a folded map of the original land claims, and a small bundle of letters. The ledger belonged to a railroad surveyor who had worked for the company years earlier. Page by page, Eleanor read how the company had deliberately moved markers and falsified maps to steal land from homesteaders. The letters were from families who had lost everything when the tracks were laid. One name kept appearing, her own father's. The surveyor had written that he had been ordered to change the boundaries and had hidden the real records inside the car before he was fired. Eleanor sat for a long time with the ledger open on her lap. The discovery would not make her rich, but it held the truth that Railway Bend had buried. Word of what she had found moved through the settlement like fire through dry grass. The man who now ran the local rail office came to the car 2 evenings later with 2 workers. He stood in the doorway and said the car and everything inside belonged to the company. He offered Eleanor twice what she had paid and told her to hand over the safe. She did not raise her voice. She simply opened the ledger and read the entry that carried her father's name. The 2 workers looked at one of them stepped back. The man from the rail office turned without another word and walked into the night. After that, the settlement began to change in quiet, stubborn ways. Families whose names were in the ledger came to the car first. Together, they decided the truth belonged to everyone. They called a meeting at the old station house. On the evening of the meeting, the rail office man arrived expecting to take control. Eleanor stood at the front with the ledger in her hands. When he tried to dismiss her, she read the entries that showed how the land had been stolen. The room grew very quiet. Then one of the older men who had worked on the tracks stood up and confirmed that some of what was written was true. The rail office man's face darkened. He turned and walked out without another word. After that night, the settlement began to repair what had been broken. The families listed in the ledger brought tools and began to clear the land around the old car. They decided the car would stand as a reminder and a place where anyone could come to understand what had really happened when the railroad came. Eleanor gave the letters to the families whose names were written inside. The small school was repaired with what remained of the hidden money the surveyor had left. Within the year, the rail company quietly led the claims rather than face the truth in open court. Railway Bend did not celebrate their leaving. It simply went on mending what had been neglected. We began this story with a woman of 28 who had been allowed to buy a forgotten railroad car because no one else wanted it. What she found sealed inside was not fortune for one life, but a reminder, written in faded ink and wrapped against the dust, that the worth of a settlement lies in the truths its people are willing to face together. Eleanor Quinn did not keep the discovery for herself. She gave it back to the hands that had once laid the tracks, and in doing so she gave Railway Bend back a piece of its own forgotten heart. The old railroad car no longer stood silent and rusting. Its doors were open, its floor was repaired, and its presence reminded the town that honest records and shared truth lifted more than one roof. Her name was no longer spoken with pity. It was spoken with the quiet respect given to someone who had looked at what others had cast aside and seen not ruin, but the chance to begin again. Thank you for walking this road with us through the wind and the dust and the quiet strength of one woman's hands. If the story stayed with you, we hope you will pass it along to someone who might need the reminder that even the most overlooked corners can hold what a whole settlement has been waiting to find again. Tell us, if you would, of a time you discovered value in something others had already written off. Until next time, stay close to the things worth mending.